Okay, so we are doing a special Purim edition of Mishlei. Okay, last minute Purim edition. Mishlei 29:11. Okay, and the reason why we're doing 29:11 is because Midrash Rabbah Perik Sheni opens with this pasuk as I assume it's as a pasichta, even though it doesn't say pasichta. Okay, so pasichta is just the genre of like opening a series of drashos on a Megillah specifically with a pasuk from another sefer and using that to like thematically frame the way that you view the sefer. Okay, so we'll do this normally, but what I want to do is I want to before we do our own analysis, I want to read the midrash so that you can have it in your mind, even though we probably won't get to it till tomorrow. Okay, so translation, or sorry, not translation. Pasuk is 29:11. Kol rucho yotzi ksil v'chacham be'achor yeshabachena. Kind of an awkward wording. Anyone?
All his spirits.
Spirit,
yeah. Will exempt a Ksil.
You're using motzi in like the rabbinic Hebrew of to fulfill your obligation. Yeah, to hamotzi lechem in haaretz, right? Is like to but yotzi, so
take out.
To not to take out, to bring out, right, or to cause to come out. Okay, yeah, but put it in English syntax here. Ksil yoti kol rucho, right? That's how you have to say it, right? A fool, is there a word that we could one word thing instead of taking or bringing out?
I'm sure there is.
I would say expel, but I don't know if that is right. Let me just actually click on the BDB and see what it says. Yotzi. Nope. It's still, sometimes it does this. It gets stuck on another thing. Yotzi is to go or come out. Do or come or go out or come forth. Go forth to a place. Oh, he feel. That's what we want. To cause to go or come out, bring out. Yeah. So there's no good English word for it, right? So
still causes to go out all of his
spirit. Yeah. Causes all of his spirit to go out. Okay. The Chacham the Achor Yeshabachena, and I know you know what Achor is, but I put this here just in case we needed it. So Achor is backwards or in the background or hereafter. So how do you say the Chacham the Achor Yeshabachena?
The Chacham will praise in the end.
Will praise in praise. I think praise it, right? Yeshabeach osa. I think that's how you say it. We'll praise it in the end. Okay.
No, from behind.
Or behind. Yeah. Yeah. So let's say behind or at the end. Okay. Okay. So obviously we need help on this. So let's look at the Tzyon. So he says rucho. He says it means inyano kaas. Okay, and this is a common thing that ruach sometimes means anger. Okay, so actually I'm going to go ahead and lead with anger because I think most of the meforshim say it means anger. So fool causes all of his spirit to go out. Hinichu es ruchi. Okay, I'm not familiar with Zachariah for that to have meaning. Yeshabchena is inyan hashpala. Okay, so he says Yeshabchena is an odd use of Yeshabchena, which is to lower the hashkata or to quell. Kamo mashbiach sha'on yamin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just let's assume it's just ציון also, okay, because I think Sadigon says that as well. Will quell it, and he doesn't say Achor. Okay, Targum Sadigon says Timsa you will find. Okay, this is one of the Timsa psukim. Okay, you will find a situation in which Shaksil Moti Kol Kaso, a fool. I'm going to go ahead and say vents all of his anger. Okay, because vent is to like release, like the out. The Chacham ba'achris, but a Chacham at the end. So he does say at the end, mashkit es hadavar. Actually, let me say, will quell the matter at the end. Okay, and then Kafech clarifies that he rucho kasa. So rucho here means anger. Okay, and then the Targum says kola humse. Mapik sichla. So humse means heat. right? So I assume that this means anger also. Okay. So the Ksil is mapik all of his chum, he releases all of his anger. V'chakima b'rayana ma'acha. So he, I don't know if this is a translation of achor or if the Targum is going off of a different text, because literally what this means. So let's say a fool vents all of his anger, but a chacham ma'acha means to lowers it b'rayana. What is rayana? With thought. Yeah. Okay. So that's how they do it. Okay. Our scroll says the fool vents all of his anger, but the wise man comes afterwards and assuages it. Okay, so that's going with the Mitzvah Tion. Refer says a fool speaks everything he has in his mind. So he's taking ruach as like spirit. Yeah.
It sounds like the way our scroll is reading is the wise.
Oh, afterwards, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
The Chacham is quelling the fool's anger.
Oh, yeah. That's how I thought it meant.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's because it is referring to the ruach. I think is the only object in the pasuk.
Well, it could be
How
Chacham handles the situation that when the Chacham has anger, his own anger.
I think that doesn't work. Let me just see. Hold on a second. I mean, that is not just an alternative reading. That would be a stretched reading, I think, because the only object in the pasuk is the ruach ksil. So the question is, what does the fool do to the ruach ksil, and what does the chacham do to the ruach ksil?
Yeah, I guess actually, I think actually it has to do with the specific way that the first half is worded.
Yeah,
I think if it was ksil yotze kol rucho, then saying this move how ksil actually how
yeah. You I think it might lend itself to that better. But I'm going to go ahead and assume that this is the only way to read it, unless we see someone say otherwise. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah. When is ruach ksil is the anger?
That is how Tion, Sadigon, Targum, and Ars will take it. Yeah.
Okay. So meaning you could just so we're on the same page. You could translate it as, and the chacham will quell it, meaning the anger.
Whose anger?
His own.
That's what we just got done discussing with Isaac.
Okay.
And I say that I don't think you can do that.
Oh, you say you don't think you do that?
No, because
okay.
Yeah, I'll say it again. The only object in the pasuk is ruach ksil. So the ksil is motzi all of his ruach, and the chacham yeshabchena means he's yeshabeach es rucho shel ksil. He lowers the anger of the fool, not his own anger, unless we find otherwise. But so far, everyone seems to be saying, that it's that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Translation.
Oh,
I've been working on this.
Okay, great. Okay.
No, it's rough.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All of his anger will be vented by a fool, and in the end, a chacham will make it cool.
Okay. A chacham will make it cool. Okay, I like it. All right, this is a fun little subgenre of Mishlei translation. Yeah, Ariel.
No, my hand wasn't up. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm coming upstairs right now.
Okay. All right. So reverse though says that it does not mean anger. It means mind. Okay. Which is strange because I know ruach means spirit, but usually it means like emotions, but I suppose, you could use it as mind, but a wise man improves upon it by discretion. Okay. So very, very different. He basically translates every single word differently. So he's saying yeshabchena. I think he's using it in the like rabbinic Hebrew, like nosin tam l'shvach or mashbiach, like to improve. I don't know if biblical Hebrew uses it that way. I've never seen it that way. And then bachor, he's saying like backhandedly, I think, like behind the scenes, So a fool speaks everything he has in mind, but a wise man improves upon it by discretion. And then Alter says the fool gives vent to his whole spirit, but the wise man quells it. Okay, now before we analyze this on our own, if you were to apply this to Megillah, who do you say that it's referring to, that the two halves are referring to?
That's right.
Okay, Haman and Mordechai, Esther and Achashverosh. Okay, so you'd never guess this one. Okay, nope. Kol rucho yotzei ksil ze Achashverosh. Okay, v'chacham b'achor yishabchena ze HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, Shu Mishadech Achashverosh. Now, when I read Mishadech Achashverosh, I thought that meant that he made a shidduch for Achashverosh, and it's talking about him pairing Achashverosh up with Esther, but it's not how the English translation says it. The fool vents all his anger, and the wise will soothe it, restraining it. Okay, that's how this. I don't know who translates this English here. This is from Sfaria. The fool vents all of his spirit. This is Achashverosh, and the wise will soothe it, keeping it back. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who soothes Achashverosh. This is what you said. Sorry. Heich ma da'at amar mashbiach she'on yamim she'on galehem v'hamon le'umim. Oh, rhyming. Who stills the raging seas, the raging waves, and the tumult of the peoples.
I'm not asking if rhyming has done
it. Yeah. Okay. So we're not going to work on the midrash on its own today, probably. But just keep it in the back of your mind. But yeah, I would have said. I mean, I would have even said no. I wouldn't have said Chacham is Memuchan, but you know, Memuchan does quell Achashverosh's anger, right? Yeah. All right. So let me just collect our translations here and move them. Yeah. Okay. Hold on a second here. Okay. So let's move this here, and then I'm actually gonna put Rav Hirsch's. Actually, I'm gonna put Alter's and Rav Hirsch's underneath ours, because they are different. So again, we have a fool causes all of his I'm gonna go ahead and say with vent. I think vent is a good no, we'll keep it like this. A fool causes all of his anger or spirit to go out. But a chacham, or I guess this is but or and. Okay. Because it's not clear if this is what he does instead or it's in one scenario. But a chacham will quell it. It seems like at the end will ultimately well, let's say ultimately we'll quell it afterwards. Okay. And then you could also say or behind, okay, the scenes. I think that's like how Rav Hirsch is saying it. Yeah. Just 1 second here. So then Rav Hirsch is saying fool speaks everything he has in mind. The wise man improves responded by discretion. Yeah, you know what? Hold on a second. Yeah, so let's say quell or improve. Yeah, no, I see. I just want to check this. Hold on. I want to check and see if Yeshab Chena is ever used in biblical Hebrew for improve. Shavach is soothe or still. Interesting. Laud or praise. Commend, congratulate. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think it means improve. I mean, I'm not one to question Rav Hirsch, but I do question Rav Hirsch on. Okay, side point. I was just doing my my Rav Hirsch rant earlier. Not only does Rav Hirsch counterfactually hold that all of Hebrew is like this hermetically sealed language that has not had any influence from any other source, but he also, I think, plays fast and loose with all Hebrew. So meaning that I don't think he holds that biblical Hebrew and rabbinic Hebrew are as like firmly evolutionary as like actual linguists hold. Okay, in other words, like we would scientifically approach language these days by saying we have to look at what era the terms first started being used in these ways. But I know I've seen Rav Hirsch quote rabbinic Hebrew to support his interpretations of biblical Hebrew, and I think that is in line with this whole assumption that Hebrew is all one like language. Yeah. So anyway, so that's why he might be reading this in a non-linguistically faithful way to the actual like etymology. Okay. Yeah. Ariel, you had a question.
Yeah. Okay. So going. So this is a question just in like the opposites based off of Yeshab Chena.
Yeah.
Because like a great, beautiful opposite, which already led to a couple of ideas, would have been if the Chacham quells his own anger versus the full not quelling his own anger.
Yeah. Okay.
So what the heck's the pasuk talking about?
Okay. So let's ask the question like this. Okay. What is the relationship between the two halves? Okay. Is this a I think I have a term for this. A story time pasuk. Okay. I don't know if that's what I call it, but that's what I made up now, is like it's saying the fool did this, and then the Chacham came and did this. Like it's telling you a narrative, you know. So I'll just say it's storytime pasuk in which it's describing a sequence of events, or are these opposites? And if they're opposites, okay, why not describe how the Chacham deals with his own anger rather than how the Chacham deals with the fool's anger?
Yeah, this is the thing that's bothering me about this pasuk.
Yeah.
And why I tried to translate it differently.
Yeah.
They're not in the same situation. The Ksil is in a situation where he has his own anger. The Chacham is a situation where he has someone else's anger.
Right. Okay.
So like,
yeah.
It's much easier to deal with someone else's anger than it is to deal with your own.
Okay, so I do want to point out one thing which I should have said from the very beginning. Bear in mind, this is chapter 29. Okay, so we in this shiur are not used to learning Mishlei Chizkiyahu or Mishlei Shlomo She'etiku Anshe Chizkiyahu, right? So just for people who are listening who don't know the structure, so there are 3 books of Mishlei. Okay, there is Mishlei, and you can tell because it says Mishlei Shlomo at the beginning of every book. Mishlei Shlomo ben David Melech Yisrael. So chapter 1 through the end of chapter 9. Okay, that is presumably written by Shlomo HaMelech, authored by Shlomo and written by Shlomo. Then there's chapter 10 through 24. Mishlei Shlomo ben Chacham Yisamach Av ben Ksil Tugos Imo. That is authored by Shlomo and written by Shlomo. And then there's Mishlei 25. Gam ele Mishlei Shlomo asher hetiku anshe Chizkiah melech Yehuda. These 2 are the Mishlei Shlomo that were transcribed by the men of Chizkiyahu, king of Yehuda. So that's presumably authored by Shlomo, but written down or formulated by Chizkiyahu, and the styles are markedly different. The way I like to describe the difference in styles is that chapter 25 through 29 tends to be like straight up mashalim. They're not as cryptic. And a lot of them are just like in other words, straight up mashalim meaning that they're just stated as simple proverbs, like formulated. I'm not saying the ideas are simple, but they're formulated simple proverbs, or it's just analogy, like this is like this and this is like that, you know. So we do have to be aware that our assumptions about how Mishlei typically formulates itself might not be, let's say, like this assumption that it's talking about how 2 people make decisions in the same circumstance might not be warranted. I'm not as familiar with this territory.
Sure.
Yeah, but we can ask though, either way, what situation is this describing? Okay, yeah.
Actually, I don't even know how this will be a question, but it's more like, okay, is there a way? I have to word it carefully, but is there a way to like express in the idea? Should we explain how the Chacham would quell his own anger versus the fool's anger? Like, will it bring out an idea somewhere in the?
I mean,
I'm not saying it's true.
Yeah, right. I mean,
but I'm saying will it bring something out?
My intuition tells me that is like a question about a topic inspired by the pasuk. You know, I don't think the pasuk is addressing that. Yeah. Now here I'll tell you what you could do. You could maybe make an inference that if the idea hinges on how the Chacham understands anger, you might be able to infer how he deals with his own anger. Yeah. But it seems to be like, in other words, I'm just gonna like okay, I don't want to say that I'm interpreting the pasuk right now, but when the fool vents his anger, there's 2 things going on. There's what's going on inside of the fool, and then there's the damaging effects of his anger. Okay, now the Chacham is if we assume that the Chacham is dealing with that, okay, so then the most direct opposite, I think, would be how the Chacham deals with like the aftermath or the external effects of the fool's anger. So you would have to learn the pasuk. If the pasuk is teaching about how the Chacham like manages the internal world of the Ksil, then maybe you can extrapolate to how he manages his own internal world. You know, but if this is just how he like deals with the after effects of the anger, then I think it's much harder to say that this pasuk is like commenting on how the Chacham deals with his own anger.
All right, okay, fine.
You can say also based on the mistake the Ksil is making, you can infer what the Chacham would do differently.
Right. Yeah, that's possible as well. Yeah. David, did you have a question?
I did. Give it a second. That's the question now.
I'm going to go ahead and ask a question while you're thinking. Is like, practically speaking, okay, what are each of them doing? What are each of them doing? Okay, in other words, what does it mean to be for the Ksil to be motzi ka'aso, or I guess a rucho, and in what way does the Chacham yeshab chena? Yeah, David?
Okay, I don't have definition questions yet, but is the Ksil doing this? Is he planning to do this? Is this intentional?
Okay,
Or is this
yeah.
unintentional?
Is the Ksil doing this intentionally or unintentionally? And do you have an intuition about that? Anyone have an intuition about whether it's intentional or
I
not?
think maybe in the moment not intentional, but I think maybe it's like a general
I'll say
Ksil way of being. This is like there's a mode of being, even though the moment was not intentional.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, like he might not be like, I'm gonna take all my anger right now.
Uh-huh.
But he might have like I have a sense that Ksil has a general way of being that when things go bad or whatever it is, I'm gonna take it to an extreme.
Uh-huh. Okay, interesting. Because my intuition is that it is intentional.
I was thinking unintentional.
Yeah.
I think the Ksil doesn't have any sort of. I think he has no conflict about venting his anger. I think
Right.
this is like, okay, yeah, I'm angry. This is. He's not like, okay, he's not thinking, okay, I'm gonna vent all my anger now.
Yeah.
Like, he's not. He has no resistance.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I was thinking my intuition is dictated more by the word yotzi, because I don't think if I gave you literally any other sentence that you were motzi this, like you took out the garbage, right? You took out the bread from the earth, it's intentional. So like the imagery of losing control does not seem to be like, it seems like this is a deliberate decision. That's how I'm taking it, but I think it's a good question though.
It's just like you picked it up and carried it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. That's what it means to be motzi something. Yeah.
So the question is, what is Ksil's definition of Ksil?
Oh, yeah.
No, because I was thinking unintentionally, and I was gonna use Akashverish to prove it.
Okay, I mean, look,
But-
like I think it is open to saying that,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying what my intuition is. Yeah, Isaac.
Who is the Ksil angry at? Is he angry at
Okay.
the Chacham?
Oops.
Someone else? Just
Okay.
angry at
So
reality?
let's say I'm gonna actually put this in the situation question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah. What or who is the Ksil angry at? Okay, and I'll say like, does it even matter?
Well, it matters if it's at the Chacham.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Does it matter? Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Or I'll just ask one of them, but definitions
Yeah.
of what is a Ksil in this
Right.
context, a Chacham in this context.
What is a Ksil in this context? And then what is a Chacham in this context? Oh, you know what I have to do? I have to quote you from Monday night because that was such a like critical methodology point. Okay. So what was the pasuk on Monday night? Mishlei 13:17, I think. So on Monday night we had this pasuk. Okay. Malach Rasha Yipol Bara Vitzir Emunim Marpe. So a Malach Rasha, which is unclear whether this is Mishlei 13:17, whether that's an agent of an evil person or an evil agent, okay, will fall into harm, but a messenger of the faithful or a faithful messenger heals or brings healing. Okay, very complex translation here. Okay, so what happened was for the first half of the shiur, we were analyzing this, assuming that Russia meant like a Russia. Okay. But then Ariel had an idea that, but the problem with the pasuk is that Russia and Ne'eman don't seem to be opposites, right? You'd say Russia and Sadiq, or Ne'eman and like not Ne'eman, like deceptive or like, fickle. What was that?
Is it Bogate?
Bogate, yeah, right. Or even I think there is what was it?
Kaza.
Yeah, Kazav. Yeah, Koladam Kozev, right? Yeah. So Ariel had an idea, and it was that it's not talking about a Russia morally, it's talking about a Russia vis-a-vis your shlichus, meaning a good shliach is one who carries out what your ratzon is. A bad shliach is one who deviates from your shlichus. So what it ended up being is so the reason why I wanted to highlight this methodological point is that this is why it's important to ask in every case, even when you find Mishlei jargon, what is the definition in this context? Because if you just plug in your preconceived notion of Russia in this case, you would miss out that idea. So I think that and because we were open to a new definition, then we had that was the key to the understanding the pasuk. So here too, even though we've had lots of pasukim about Chacham and Ksil, we need to define it based on the context. Okay. Okay. I want to ask this question on the situation pasuk, which is actually, this is a question really, it's hard to tell whether it's a question on 2 or 3, or addition on 2 or 3. What does, I'll just make it a separate question. What is added by, or what is added, qualified, what is be'achor coming to add or qualify? Okay, so that could be part of the thing that clues us in on the situation, and that it shows that it's sequential, or it could mean reverse, that he's doing something behind the scenes, and why does the Chacham not simply yishab chena, but yishab chena ba'achor, which I realize might only apply if you're talking about non-sequential interpretation. Yeah, David.
Why the word kol?
Yeah, okay, right. What does the word kol come to add or qualify? Yeah, it's funny also because you notice what sorry. I messed it up. I was gonna say that Sadigun says that it's there are cases, but that's not in contrast to kol, because kol is kol rucho, not every ksil. Yeah.
Also, what is the Chacham responding to? Is it the kol rucho? Is it just simply rucho yotzi?
Yeah. Okay. So
Is
let's say actually, you know what? Let's ask a question that oddly enough we don't usually ask. I don't know why we don't usually ask this. Why does the Ksil do this? Okay. And then why does the Chacham do this? And then we'll say, is he responding merely to the rucho, or to the fact that it is kol rucho? And then the nafka mina is whether he would respond in this way if it were only miktsas rucho. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I have an approach.
Okay. Yeah. I think. Let me just think one more.
Audience subject.
Yeah. I think the
This is
what was that?
That's obvious.
Yeah. So who is the intended audience? And then I'd also say what are the benefits and consequences, right? And what is the practical application, and then what is the subject? Okay. All right. Yes, you have an idea.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of an obvious idea.
Okay, that's fine.
Semi-obvious.
Yeah.
So it's really about how the Chacham handles when the Ksil is doing this.
Okay.
So Ksil is he's very angry about something, or when you think about something, it's almost it's his anger is like a raging river.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to stamp it down, then you're just gonna get hit by the full force of the river.
Yeah.
So the Chacham does, he kind of stands back.
Yeah.
And lets the Ksil kind of rage himself out.
Yeah.
And in the end, he does so he figures out what small things he can do to get him settled back down.
Okay. Yeah. So let me write that, and then I have a real world example.
Yeah, and it's bad for because it's both it's both behind the scenes and afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes all out, and his anger is like a raging torrent, river. So if So I guess let's put it this way. So a fool might try to suppress or assuage the anger in the moment, but that will at least not succeed, and at worst, like, make things worse for him or for the situation.
Yeah, it's like stepping into the river and trying to like.
Yeah, right. Right. For this reason, a Chacham will wait until the Ksil fully vents all of his anger, right? I think that's the call. That answers your question. And only afterwards attempt to address the situation. Yeah. Which we're not saying exactly how he's addressing that. I think the only thing that we're not explaining is what exactly the Yishab Chena is, but I think everything else we've explained. Yeah.
Slight tweak. I would say
Sure.
later instead of afterwards, because afterwards sounds like it could be like immediately.
Okay, sure.
And
Yeah.
I think that's still a mistake.
So I want to read an example of this.
Shakespeare.
No. So this was from that episode of Tim Ferriss, Master Negotiator William Uri. And I don't remember what I'm going to read, but I remember that there's an example here involving Venezuela. Okay, yeah. So he says, so this is again, Master Negotiator. So he says, what I like to do is I learned this in very high stakes negotiation once when the president of Venezuela was shouting at me for 30 minutes. Okay, Hugo Chávez. I don't know if you remember him. Hugo Chávez it was midnight in front of his whole cabinet, and I'd been sent there to try and mediate between him and his political opposition. And he said to me, "Uri, so how are things going?" And I said, "It seems to me, Mr. President, I've been talking to some of your ministers. I've been talking to the opposition, making some progress." Well, progress wasn't the word he wanted to hear. What do you mean progress? Are you a fool? You're not seeing the dirty tricks the other side is up to. And he leaned into my face, and I could almost feel his hot breath, his hot rucho, as the Targum says, almost a spittle. And he proceeded to shout at me, and I was like, "Oh God, a year of work down the drain. I'm humiliated and embarrassed in front of his whole cabinet. You go through all these things." And then I remember a simple technique, which a friend of mine had once told me, which is, "William, when you're in a tough situation, pinch the palm of your hand." Okay, so this is a side point, but we'll read it anyway. And I said, "No, why would I pinch the palm of my hand?" He said, "Because it will give you some momentary pain. It'll keep you alert." So for whatever reason, I remembered at that moment, I pinched the palm of my hand, and sure enough, then I was able to kind of stop for a second and ask. I was just about to think about what I was going to say and reply to him. And I thought, what is my interest here? My interest is in calming the situation. Is it really going to help the situation if I get into an argument with the president of Venezuela? Okay, so right. So I bit my tongue and I proceeded to listen to him, just observe him. Why is he doing this? Is he trying to impress his cabinet and so on? And when you don't react, there's no fuel for his anger. So after 15, 20 minutes, this guy could go on for 7 hours. He's known for giving 7-hour speeches. At around 30 minutes, I was watching his body language and I saw his shoulders sink. And he said to me in a weary tone of voice, he said, "So Uri, what should I do?" Well, that, my friends, is the faint sound of a human mind opening. Okay, and at that point, then he goes and he talks with him. So this is an example which is interesting because this is a good decision even before we see how he addresses the situation, right? Just the achor is the chiddush, right? And if he tried, you can imagine if he tried to argue with Hugo Chávez at the time. So not only would it be ineffective, but he'd probably get slammed even more, Yeah. I want to add commentary to what Isaac's saying, which is that the first pasuk that I ever teach in Mishlei which we did this year, which is 14:16. Chacham yarei v'sar meira uksil misaber oboteach. So Chacham fears and turns from evil or harm, but Ksil makes himself enraged and is confident. So we said that one of the hallmarks of the Ksil is that he assumes reality will automatically yield to his desires, and so he's constantly flipping back and forth between rage when reality doesn't go his way, and then supreme confidence that reality will go his way. So I do think, and that's a very infantile way of operating. So I do think that the reason why the Ksil vents all of his anger is I think he feels that it actually will make a difference. Like in the same way as a baby that cries expects the cry to change reality. I think the Ksil genuinely feels that if I just rage enough, then reality will get like beaten into my submission to me, you know. So I think that's why he feels he has to like be Motzi Ksil, yeah. Yeah.
Just positive.
Okay, hold on a second. Pause recording.
Yeah,
Yoshua?
Yeah, just a clear practical example.
Yeah.
People in traffic in New York just honking at each other.
Yeah, that is a great example. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, specifically in New York,
That's
right?
the only time you
Right.
can do whatever you want.
Right. That is a great example, right? Like it is not gonna help. Like yeah. Okay, yeah, Isaac. Okay. All right, pause recording. I think one of the reasons why, if you try to stop the fool or respond to the anger, what I think no matter what you say, since he is expressing his ego, it is going to become an ego clash, right? So let's say the case is he's angry, and let's say he's exaggerating the situation in his own mind, and you just say, well, it's not exactly like that. So then in what you think you're doing is you're just clarifying the facts. But what he thinks you're doing is that you're attacking him or saying that he's wrong or whatever. Let me pause the recording. Okay.
No, you don't have
Yeah,
to.
go ahead. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you know, like there was an attorney who was. This is via email.
Yeah.
Like she was emailing
Yeah.
me like very aggressive, like she was attacking me.
Yeah.
She was like creating like this false like scenario.
Yeah.
And I could have speaking of like that guy,
Yeah.
you know, you just could have like I didn't have the opportunity to respond immediately, and
Yeah.
that was like the greatest thing in the world because like I actually thought about the situation,
Right.
and like I could have responded like
Yeah.
very aggressively,
Yeah.
like what are you doing? You're totally wrong. And I said, look, like I apologize if there's any miscommunication. Let me just clarify the facts.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, whatever.
Ooh, yeah.
Like in a very peaceful, like showing like we want to work together because it's both of our clients here,
Yeah.
you know, we have to.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
actually
so
grant
the-
you a wish, okay, which is let me give how the Chacham deals with his own anger, okay, in that situation, because what you reminded me of is the thing about Abraham Lincoln, and I don't know if this is true or not, but what they say about Abraham Lincoln is whenever he received like an angry letter, he would write an angry letter back and then put it in the drawer and then write a second letter, you know? So what he's doing is he's venting his anger, but he's venting in a way that is not producing any consequences in reality. So I think that is a healthy way to vent your anger, which is to find some way to let off the steam so that you can think. So it's two things. It's intelligent in two ways. One is it doesn't create any external consequences. Secondly, is it does have that steam release valve where you can get the anger out of your immediate mind so that you can think clearly, you know? Yeah, Isaac.
I have another example.
Yeah.
So
We're all just venting now. Yeah. Yeah.
this was my anger.
Yeah.
So this was so we needed my apartment, there's like problems with like 4 different light fixtures.
Yeah.
And when we moved in,
No. Yeah.
it's actually like the light fixtures in like 4 different.
Oh, okay,
so,
yeah.
like, yeah. So when we moved in, we spoke to the landlord about it and said that we could replace it.
Yeah.
They'll keep replacing them.
Yeah.
And he said that we should pick them. And
Yeah.
then we took us a long time to do that. And then like a month ago, we like picked the light fixtures, and then we were talking to him on Monday, and he had thought that we had purchased the light fixtures,
Mhm.
but we were like, no, you know, if you're replacing the light, we're not buying the light fixtures.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, like how much is it? And then when he heard how much it is, which we weren't trying to pick, you know, expensive ones, we were
Yeah.
just like reasonable. He said that we could pick.
Yeah.
We're picking, you know, reasonable ones, and he's like, he got very upset about how much they were.
Mhm.
I think in part because he hasn't bought light fixtures in a while.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they're just expensive.
Yeah.
But he was like, he was kind of yelling at me on
Yeah.
the phone about how, like, you know, like he would never buy something that expensive for himself, and like he's like trying to be like, but is he
Right.
like, do I think that this is fair? And I was like, you know, we like never ask him for
Yeah.
for things. There's lots of things that we could be asking. I was very upset, and I wanted to call him back right away, but Aviva was like, why don't you like talk to your dad first, like
Yeah.
think about it, and then,
Yeah, all right, that's good.
and then like later on he called, like the later on going back, and he's like for these two rooms, we'll be like, what do you think of these other light fixtures?
Mhm.
And then here's what we think, like is a reasonable amount, and like it's just now there's not a problem between me and
Right.
him because
Yeah,
it
you
didn't
give the
respond
face,
to
yeah.
that.
Yeah, David?
There's one other thing to the pasuk.
Yeah,
It's not full idea, just toss out there because I won't be here tomorrow.
yeah,
I think something that one of the reasons why a person does get angry and why the person vents out all of his anger is, I think that expressing anger is in some ways justifying my being unhappy with the situation.
hmm
And I think that a fool is going to do that insofar as this is their way of showing that they are actually correct, that they have been wronged or something like that.
okay.
Where to go with that, I don't know exactly.
Okay, no, I think that's a good point.
How you're.
Yeah.
I also have an idea. I don't know if you have to go right now.
I
but-
do have to go in a little while,
So-
but yeah.
Okay, so I also won't be around. Can I just ask?
Yeah, sure,
you
sure,
know,
yeah.
I might be on Zoom. I have to find out.
Okay,
but,
yeah.
From New Jersey.
No, sorry, I'm saying go quickly. Yeah.
Okay,
I thought you
fine.
just asked, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just for the first one is along the lines of like what I was saying. Just going further, like if someone does that, listen to other people, like other people can take that to mean like, because sometimes you just vent for the sake of venting, but then there are people who may misinterpret it saying like, oh, you vent because you want something done, so basically they do something done and that causes a lot more damage. Basically, it could create a lot of issues. Woo!
Venting anger
That's what
also generates miscommunications because the fool is just venting, but others might take that as a call, as an unclear call for action. Yeah. I just want to read the Mitsudos and then we'll stop for today. I don't want to interpret it. Kol rucho derech Ksil beis yichas hu motzi min hasafa ulachutz kol kaso. So the way of the fool when he gets angry is he expresses externally from the lips and outward all of his anger. Uvakol sha'on. I think that means like in a loud voice. The Chacham yavo ba'achrona. A Chacham will come at the end, v'yashkit kaso, and will quell his anger, v'yashpilena, b'mane lashon Chachamim, in a response of Chachamim, v'mesek sifsei das, and with words of knowledge. Okay, so we'll have to get to that. And just to set us up for tomorrow from the midrash, I don't typically think of God calming Achashverosh's anger. I think we think of Achashverosh's anger a lot, but the question is, what does it mean that God calms Achashverosh's anger, and how is that a theme of the Megillah? You want to say one last thing?
I have two small points.
Yeah.
One is about the question about there kind of being two variables about but whether the first actor is a Chacham or Ksil,
Yeah.
and also the second.
Yeah.
If the first actor is a Chacham, then you don't have a situation because it's not going to be, mostly Rucha.
Right.
That's why that's how you get out of that problem.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think I like in terms of like the lesson of like the Yotze, your Kol Rucho, it's kind of like if you're like with something like that, if you're like, let's say, bringing a bunch of things outside, once you get started, then stopping in the middle is itself its own frustration.
Right.
Like, let's say you're bringing all these children outside. Or
Yeah.
Then like once you get going, and if you get stopped before, like if you only brought out like half the stuff, and then and then someone like interrupts you for something else, then I'm saying like, that stuff is a source of anger.
Yeah. I mean, I think your first muscle is better. Like once you open the dam, then like it's very hard to to close it, and that becomes a struggle. Okay, let's stop for today, and Bleed will continue tomorrow.
For you?
Oh, thank you. Is this a lending or a?
No, you
Oh,
keep
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.